there's any redeeming quality about the NES Silver Surfer game, I would highly recommend the fantastic soundtrack. I'll be repetitive, it is very, very catchy. Welcome back to another episode of the Search for Shalla-Bal. Last time, the team actually went to Reptilix, and they actually dealt with the monstrosity known as Reptile, along with his reptilian mutant armies, as well as a bunch of schools of flying fish. And it turns out that Shalla-Bal isn't there. Scanning was complete, Finan said to get out of there, but it was too late because Terri and the Silver Surfer and the Astro Wing have become meals for Reptile. And Ben was able to help them out by grabbing its tail and distracting it long enough. And Terri actually fired a Nova bomb inside its mouth and exploded just as they got out. Don't worry, it wasn't so gory. So, their next stop is the turf of the Firelord, just as in the game. So let's get this started. Alright, Chapter 3. 5 days have passed when the group reached their destination, Xandar. And this is not made up. It was blood red like Mars, but this one was all covered with molten lava and sharp rocky landscapes. Just like in the vision, Finan said, referring to Elmar's premonition. Terri has decided that Johnny should go with Norrin since they can both take the heat, but she, on the other hand, was uncertain. You guys can go if you want to, but I'm going to skip this one out. Drake looked up with a puzzled face. He asked, "Why don't you want to go?" She replied that the Astro Wing might not be suitable searching for Shalla-Bal in dry heat. She went to Reed, who was at the controls with Finan, Sue, and Ben. She repeated what she said, then he confidently stated that he has installed air conditioning from the coldest areas in space. I see no problem with it, just as long as it stays cool. Terri nodded and thanked him. Then she was off to the cockpit. Another world awaits, Norrin said as she and Johnny climbed in. I always liked Lawrence Fishburne as the Silver Surfer. It fits perfect for him. Although little did I know he was like black to begin with. Nice fit. The crew wished the trio good luck, and then they entered the Red Planet. After they went through Xandar's atmosphere, Terri stopped and asked Johnny, "Think you could handle this by yourself?" He responded, "Of course, you know me. I can take on anything. Okay, let's get started." She opened the hatch and he jumped out, turning himself into a human flame. Of course, he goes, "Flame on!" It resumed its course with Norrin close by. Finan was right. There was a lot of lava and rocky terrain everywhere they looked. Terri let Norrin and Johnny take the lead as they took down anything that stood in their way. Creatures kept peeking and shooting from the ragged cliffs. Some fought in large groups as they closed in. "Watch out! Some of these guys would be appearing from the lava! Even they're not scared I'm taking the heat." She made a dirty look as she saw Johnny engulfed in flame playing in the lava, although she was surprised that it didn't bother him at all. More enemies emerged from the lava and some of them ducked, reloaded, and shot again. As soon as the crew came to a section where there was almost nothing but lava, they saw a tall, skinny volcano connected to a narrow cave. "What do you think? You think Elmar's right about her being in this hot place?" Determined as ever, Norrin proceeded to it. She got a call from Finan. "That area's an oven. Don't go burning that Astro Wing. Be reasonable, Terri." "Don't worry, Cadet. I'll be careful." She thought out loud that the cave is so narrow that she and the others would have to stay in single file. She drew forward behind Norrin, then Johnny trailed behind her. "I got your back." "I wish it was the same in the game. Darn it." They went in and Terri complained when the air conditioner would turn on. As if on command, Lucille activated it and she felt immediate relief. Sure enough, they made their way through narrow paths in the cave. There were a few basins of lava where enemies tend to splash out and attack. The rest were in sharp, ragged flooring. Some bogies approached from behind where Johnny used his flames to destroy them. At times, the small group felt earthquakes and a few loose stalactites fell. They slowed to a crawl so they wouldn't be clobbered. She had to give a signal so Johnny wouldn't burn the tail off. Most of them were shot to make them fall without any risk. The surfer, the Astrowing, and Johnny sped up as they entered a wider area of the cave where they roamed more easily. In the distance, they heard a roar similar to an enormous dragon. Then they felt more quakes and fireballs were thrown toward them. "Allow me!" exclaimed Johnny as he went ahead and pushed the embers aside with ease. The team wandered to a path leading upwards where the volcano stood. They saw an enormous pool of lava and suddenly it started to ripple. The ground shook, then lava began to tower over them. When it came down, they saw what looked like a human sphinx. It was indeed Pyreus Kril himself, aka the Firelord. Reed announced over the speakers that the analysis was complete and the enemy goes by the name of Firelord. It refused to let them pass. It groaned and swiped at the Astrowing like a fly. The wings were burning, so she made a few barrel rolls to put them out. The team took turns attacking it, but nothing affected it. Johnny did most of the dirty work as he kept lunging toward it and releasing embers. "It appears we're at a standoff." Then Johnny thought about turning into a supernova, as if she read his mind, which she did. She immediately said it won't do any good since the enemy is immune to their attacks. Finally, the Astrowing set off an alarm to ensure that it can't take any more blows. Suddenly, she had an idea. She opened a big unit of the controllers and saw a lot of wires intertwined with each other. She followed the wires until she found one leading to the lasers and another from the newly installed air conditioner. Johnny looked at Terri while Norrin kept fighting Firelord and said in a panic, "Terri, what are you doing?" She connected the two together, looked up and said, It's a risk I'm willing to take." She closed the unit, aimed directly at the enemy, and pounded and held on a big button. Just then, an ice beam shot out from the ship, and Firelord started to get weaker. This was before the Silver Comet, by the way. It moaned in agony, and the entire place began to freeze. Johnny hurriedly took cover under the Astrowing so he won't get hit. Terri held on to the button with all her might and in the process used her telekinesis to make the onslaught more powerful. 5 minutes later, everything grew silent. The team saw everything except the lava encased in ice. Then the frozen Firelord rocked and fell back into pieces. "Oh my God." Terri in the cockpit breathed heavily and then collapsed on the controllers. Johnny and Norrin heard the thud coming from inside the Astrowing and looked to see what happened. They saw Terri lying face down on the motherboard. Johnny tried to open the ship until he found a button that allowed him access. "Terri! Terri!" He tried to wake her up. She was the unlucky one since he's used to the heat thanks to his powers, and it wasn't a problem for Norrin because he had the board to protect him. Again, Johnny shook her and called her name, but it was no use. Then he heard an alarm go off. Lucille gave a warning that it can't hold up in the intense heat, even though everything was frozen. Frantically, Johnny tumbled into the cockpit, carried Terri to the co-pilot's seat, fastened their belts, and attempted to fly the ship out of the volcano. Suddenly, it was going down into the lava, but thanks to Norrin, he was able to leave the fervid place and head back to the mothership. Terri began to stir as Johnny kept calling her name. He was sitting on her bed, along with Reed, Ben, Fanan, and Norrin close to his side. In a weak voice, she wondered where she was, and when she realized it, she started to panic. "What happened to the ship? Where's the Astrowing?" Reed calmed her down and assured her that it was safe. Relieved, she took deep breaths, grabbed the glass of iced water from Fanan, and drank it quickly. She coughed, then Reed Reed used a thermometer on her forehead. She had a temperature of 101, but fortunately it was going down. He told the others to scoot as he gave her more water. He suggested she should rest and drink more so everyone would finish the mission in one piece. Terri realized that Shalla-Bal was not yet found. As she lay down, she made a confession. Do you remember when we first defeated Victor a few years ago? When he was superheated, then immediately became frozen? Chemistry Lesson 101, I think it is. Reed nodded and she explained. With that in mind, I had no choice because we were at a standoff. I figured the only way to wipe out the Firelord is to use an opposing element. It was a risk I was willing to take. I understand. The Astro Wing's outer hull was burned, but the rest of it is okay. She remembered Sue didn't show up. She asked and he said that she left along with the overnight crew. They went to a rest stop which is almost 20 light years away. Terri felt worried at the thought, then Reed assured that as long as they're not in another planet, there will be no trouble. He also told her that the mothership will go into hypersleep, meaning the air pressure would turn on, then it will be on autopilot to save energy. Almost like being in a jet. After 6 glasses, she slept. Then Reed made his way to the cockpit. I should know because I've done it twice in the trips to Florida. Finan already taught Reed how to set up the autopilot and activate the air pressure. Norrin's half-brother asked if he could sleep inside the ship for a change. Then Johnny chimed in. I just hope you make it before you doze off. See you guys. He and the others left Reed working at the controls. He twisted a knob and then a hissing sound was heard. The air was on. The next destination was a rest stop to refuel and restock on supplies for the remainder of the mission. He looked at a wedding portrait of him and Sue before his eyes became heavy. Then he rested on the dashboard as the others settled. The ship, without a pilot, was on its way to its next destination. The Firelord was definitely one of the hardest bosses and levels in the game. However, it's not the most difficult. I figured Terri would stand a chance if she used her cooling tanks to get rid of him. Better than lasers, especially since Norrin could take only one hit. Lousy developers! This ain't Donkey Kong Country, or even Gradius! They exploit instant kills! Anyway, the next chapter should be here shortly. Hopefully. Until then, this is the Ecron Writer signing out. Again. So, I just hope I'll be able to do the next chapter. I'll see you guys then. Alright, hold on a sec. So, see you guys then.